All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We are here for the TI9 closed qualifier group stages for Southeast Asia. Line number B, it is MLPDotA and Johnxfire. John, a very exciting day ahead of us. We've got a lot of games, a lot of pretty interesting matchups, and I've got to ask you straight off the bat, sir, how the hell are you feeling right now?
No, I'm feeling really damn good, Mike. It's a really good day, of course. It's a nice, fresh Sunday morning, and we are finally into the close qualifiers, so it's really time to see how these teams face off against the best of the best in each region. Of course, excluding the guys that go straight to TI. And to kick us off here in stream number 2, of course, it's going to be Jinesbrus up against Adroit. Now, the Filipino stack, these guys are tried and tested. They've been consistent enough. We've seen a lot of them in the past year. They have gone to a couple of local lands as well, and a couple of big tournaments themselves. Jinesbrus is a real surprise here, coming through the closed qualifiers as well. In day one, they managed to do quite well for themselves. It's the eclectic stack, right? You have the one Thai pub star, 23 Savage, and then you have the three Koreans, March, Forev, and Febi, and then you have Gunner from NA. And they really just managed to work it out. They really showed us in the open qualifiers how well they can do, and hopefully enough, they might show us here up against more established Southeast Asian teams how well they can pull this kind of gameplay off.
Yeah, it should be pretty fun. I mean, we were big fans of Jinesbrus watching them through the open qualifiers, John, and I mean, we talked about it so much. We really wanted to cast this team when it came to the closed qualifiers, and we got lucky. And of course, John, they didn't have an emblem back then, but now they've got a Phoenix up there, which is very nice, making me an even bigger fan of this team. Adroit, of course, definitely going to be a pretty hard matchup for them, but I mean, let the best man win. We do have the draft that has started. John, the Chen Wraith King coming out from Adroit. A great opening from them, though. Jinesbrus, they'll go for the Ancient Apparition and Naga Siren.
Yeah, it's a pretty safe opening for them. And you have a lot of combinations coming out with that Naga and the AA. A lot of potential for stun stacking. Really strong, stable opening so far from Jinesbrus. Not too surprising. Adroit with a Chen Wraith King do imply that they want to be aggressive early on. They want to take those early objectives. They want to be able to apply that pressure from minute 0, have the Chen grab some good creeps, run down the lane, and take over, which is going to be interesting because Jinesbrus kind of does the same thing, right? They play aggressive early on. They try to get as much space as possible. And it looks like Adroit is going to try to match that up, which is probably the first time we've seen another team try to take that pace. So it should be interesting. And in the first ban phase as well, Adroit, they banned out that Ember Spirit, which was a key part of Jinesbrus' lineup. I have to say, like, Gunner's gameplay, Gunner's flashiness on that hero really gave them a lot to play around. We'll see if Jinesbrus can make that space happen without that key hero, but it does look pretty good so far in the draft. Like, normally I wouldn't be too happy about the Naga. I think we have seen them at least run that once, and they still managed to find that aggression early on, so I'm still pretty hopeful about this.
Yeah, I mean, the way Jinesbrus works, like, they put 23 Savage on some kind of farming core, a position 1 of some sort, and then they'll just basically the other 4 players will just run around creating space for him the whole time. And 23 Savage, he does farm pretty darn fast. He's very efficient, especially on that Naga Siren. Again, we are going to see how much work he can get done. Though, like you said, if there's one team that's not going to make it a boring game with a Naga Siren, it is probably going to be Jinesbrus. So we'll see what they get up to. Of course, Adroit, they went into the Sand King pickup. Jinesbrus, they picked up that Spirit Breaker that we've seen being played over and over again for Jinesbrus, and a very aggressive fashion to say the least. Adroit, they'll go for the Omni Knight now as well, though. And this draft from them, it's starting to look very, very scary, John. There's a lot of sustain.
It really is. Oh, Jinesbrus actually goes back to that Timbersaw response. That's an interesting one. It's not the safest bet. We have seen that Timbersaw pop out in a lot of drafts, and it certainly has had a pretty rough time overall, right? Like, it has certainly struggled for the most part. Against this lineup, I can see why you do it. They don't have the most reliable stuns. Nothing instantaneous at the very least. Sand King is probably your fastest disabled coming out, and you should be able to tear through the Wraith King and Chen summons quite nicely. You wreck the Wraith King and Omni Knight as well with your Whirling Death Hook, so it does kind of work out here, but we'll see if they actually make that work. But Adroit's lineup is going to be very hard to kill. You have that Wraith King, the Sand King's not that easy to kill as well, and the Omni Knight, piles onto that. You have that Guardian Angel, the Heavenly Grace to amp up healing and regeneration. Then you have the heal as well coming out, so it's going to be hard for Jinesbrus to pull off that early momentum. At least once you hit that level 4, level 5 mark, you're not going to be seeing as much of a, they're not going to melt is what I'm trying to say. They're not going to immediately fall over. And that's going to be interesting because, again, every single time Jinesbrus does play somewhat of a 4v1, a 4p1, right? So they protect 23 Savage, they give him all the farm in the world, they give him all the space in the world, and they run around as 3 to 4 heroes trying to make space, mainly Gunner setting the pace there with his mid hero, which I'm not sure if we've seen it yet. It could be a Timbersaw mid. I mean, hell, it could be a Nagasire mid, although I don't think that fits his playstyle. There is some flexibility from Jinesbrus, but Adroit, again, they have a stable lineup. It's not too confusing. Well-defined lanes. You have some flexibility coming out here. It does feel like the Sand King will be a support this time. You're going to have that core Omni Knight in the off lane. Wraith King in the safe. So only really lacking that mid. And again, with this kind of lineup coming from Adroit, I wouldn't be surprised if they got something that's a bit more fast-paced.
We'll find out very, very soon. One more ban to go from Jinesbrus before we get to see where either side's going to be headed with this draft. Of course, for those mid picks, you've still got the Storm up there. I believe you do also have the TA sitting there as well. So those are two pretty popular picks if either side wants it. We'll have to wait though, because Jinesbrus are taking their time with this last ban, which is fair enough because they have so much reserve time left. Well, they'll let it keep ticking down. I'm kind of curious, John. I mean, just from either side's point of view, I'm kind of thinking what mid picks would suit either draft. It does feel like that Storm's probably going to be pretty good for either side if they do wish. Of course, Jinesbrus won't think about it too much. They'll go for the Monkey King, which also does make a lot of sense. Up against that Omni and Wraith King, it is going to do a lot of work. And, of course, it does get online very early as well, John. It doesn't need much farm. It just needs a bit of XP, and then you can start roaming the map and being aggressive. And I wonder now, Adroit, they know what they're up against in that mid lane. What do you pick to counter?
You still have a lot of options available. You could go back to something like the Kunkka. That's not been banned out, and that certainly has been a pretty popular pick nowadays as well. It plays into their draft quite nicely. Again, you're buffing up that tankiness from your entire team. That rum buff is going to make it hellish for Jinesbrus to find that instant pick-off, which they desperately want. You are still playing into an Ancient Apparition, so you're not going to be able to regen through quite nicely. But it still delays that fight long enough, right? You're going to make it harder and harder for this lineup that does want to come online because they want to wait for that Naga Siren to be online, so they're going to be buying space. I'm not sure if you can buy that space if a Kunkka pops out here. It would be very hard to play against. That's definitely one of the clearer options for a Droid. They could go for something that can just zip in and out, and then again, as you mentioned earlier, that Storm is an option. They go to Queen of Pain, which, you know, it can jump in and out, and that does give them a lot more burst. Gives them a lot of early aggression. So this hero just comes online at 6, is going to be able to burst down a lot of heroes in the map, especially that Monkey King. He's not going to enjoy that true damage coming out. And I like this lineup from Adroit. It's aggressive, it comes online fairly early, and considering how Jinesbrus plays, I think it's the perfect counter action to that strat coming out from Jinesbrus.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with you. It was a very nice pick coming out from Adroit. They've got plenty of wave clear for that Naga Siren with her illusions as well, so that's not going to be too much of an issue. The Timbersaw magic damage is sorted, and Gunner, of course, probably not going to have the easiest lane in the world up against Mac on that Queen of Pain. Still, though, it looks like it's going to be a very fun match to watch. I do wonder who does get that early momentum that both sides really do strive for in their own games. Of course, these are a best of one, so you don't really get a second chance to verse the team that you're playing against right now in the group stage, unless of course there's tiebreakers, but that's a rare kind of situation. Nevertheless, though, both sides see what they pull off. Though I will ask you one time, John, before we get into the game, in your opinion, who do you think has the better draft?
I'm just going to say, based off draft Adroit. Adroit's going to be harder to kill. Adroit comes online just a bit faster. Perhaps not faster necessarily, but their power spikes all coalesce to an earlier point. Jinesbrus has that funky spike because, again, they're going to be waiting for the Naga until their entire team is ready. So they're going to be playing 4P1 once again, as is their tendency, but they play really aggressive with those 4 heroes and buying that space. It's just that you're going to be playing against 5 heroes on Adroit that can play aggressive early on. It really remains to be seen if they're going to have the tools to counteract that. Again, there's just way too much regen, way too much control from Adroit that this is probably one of the best counteractions we have seen against Jinesbrus' playstyle. So I'm keen to seeing if they can pull it off. Jinesbrus, of course, They've surprised us. This is their first real test, like their first actual test outside of OQ's, in my opinion. So we'll see if it does pay off.
Oh, certainly so. I mean, it's not just your opinion, John. This is definitely the beginning of a real test at the very least. See how they can do it. Of course, does look like they are going to opt for the safe lane Timbersaw on the side of Jinesbrus forever on that Timber. Gonna have a rather difficult lane though. I mean, up against Bok on that Omni Knight. I say difficult. The whirling death spam is going to be great for him early on. But once you've got a few more levels in that Omni Knight, things are going to get a lot more annoying with that purification. Of course, the Heavenly Grace is just going to keep him up and online. And you'll probably have CML there as well on the Chen. So now you've got that double heal available if he does stick around up at this top lane. And I think that's just going to make it a bit frustrating for Forev. Because he wants to be aggressive in that lane and not allow the Omni to get that farm that he wants. But with this much sustain, I don't know if he can really afford to do that.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he will be able to. At the very least, he should be able to hold on. The burst damage is... It's still going to be considerable, but the Chen has to find those proper creeps for the control. And, you know, you might get lucky. Maybe you opt to block your own camps as well. I'm not sure if Forever will do that. He has a sentry ready if he wants to. But this tri lane definitely does seem like something that both sides will just kind of farm up. It is a better lane for Adroit if they do end up sticking with it. It's just much harder for that Timbersaw to do his job. He does drop that sentry, so he blocks his camp.
Natsumi bot lane, John. Gonna be in trouble early on though. Nice burrow strike coming out from Boomy. A very close call. Gunner, he did get the Jingu Mastery going. Unfortunately for him though, the burrow strike from Boomy will stop them from diving that tier 1 tower early on. And so we do have a bit of a tri lane being run by Jinesbrus, trying to make it harder for Natsumi to get that farm up on the Wraith King. And Boomy in this lane as well, on the Sand King, not going to have the greatest time. Like, as a position for Sand King, against a tri lane like this, I don't know how much you can really get done. It looks like Gunner will rotate though to the mid lane. 23 Savage will actually rotate to the bot lane on the Naga Siren, and they'll tri lane with the Naga instead.
They really will, and I think this is a stronger lane overall. Again, the stun stacking potential with March on that AA. As soon as he hits his level 2, you're going to have that potential. You could find an early kill. The Wraith King is pretty weak in his first 3 levels.
Well,
So that's something you can exploit.
There's a charge there, though. Looks like they don't really have any follow-up to it. Of course, the Ensnare not going to be available yet, though. Now, March going to be in trouble on the AA, and should be the first blood, and he will be. CML will go ahead and pick that up on the Chen. And so first blood does go the way of Adroit, and I suppose that's just one of the strengths of the Chen, right? He hasn't even skilled up anything yet, but it's already, I guess just his presence alone was enough.
It certainly is, and again, that's one of the threats with Adroit's draft. Their early game is really good, the remaining phase is pretty darn good, especially if they force these tri-lanes. The moment they lose out, they are going to have to draw in other lanes. Look, like this solo Omni Knight lane against the Timbersaw is just going to be a draw. It's a farming lane. It's really the bot lane that's going to have all the action.
And they're going again. Boomy, going to be the target though. There will be a Wraithfire Blast, and Burrow Strike though may not be enough, and it won't be March. He does find the Chilling Touch and does get the kill. So a nice little pick up there at the bot lane. Droid's still going to have some difficulties down at this bot lane, because again, the Chen still not really up to that point where he is going to roam around the map and try to get some kills down at that bot lane and mid lane. So they will still run into some difficulties though. Mid lane, Febby going for a bit of a charge onto Mac. They won't be able to get a kill here though, I don't think. Mac, he has the blink available. Looks like Febby just came in for some harassment. Throw out the Shadow Strike and will blink out. And now, with that Queen of Pain gone, it looks like Mac's actually going to be the one rotating up to the top lane on the Quap. And they'll put the Omni Knight in mid up against 23 Savage. So a lot of lane switching going on very early on from either side.
There definitely is. It does look like they want to try to get those ideal matchups. So they want that Timbersaw up against Quap for the most part. I think that's what's up with all these rotations we have seen. Mac really walked around the map, and he's already dropping low. He had a regen, but he's going to have to use his salve now.
Not good news.
Oh.
Those things you can't really get too close, although bot lane looks like they will jump on CML, though he'll be okay for now. Meanwhile, Gunner, though, going to be in a lot of trouble, a lot of damage being copped, and it looks like they will end up finding, though no, Mischief comes in, he's still making a run for it, and now the charge from Febby. Boomy has a Burrow Strike in about 1 second, though Gunner has salved up already, and now they're going to try and turn this one around. In fact, they will end up just leaving it at that. A very close call coming out from Gunner. He does still have the Jingu Mastery active, and in fact, there is going to be a charge on the Chen neutral creep from Febby. So far, so good from either side. Looks like Gunnar has really struggled in farm on this Monkey King in this bot lane. But still, he is remaining there. He should be able to catch up as the levels go up. But Adroit definitely doing a good job on Natsumi as well. Currently 16 last hits, 4 denies on the Wraith King.
Yeah, they're having a good time here for Adroit, and again, their laning phase is just that much stronger. I mean, Jinesbrus is trying to match that pace. It's just not paying off quite yet, although here we go again with another charge. Does get cancelled.
Yeah, quick stun coming out from Natsumi. Febby just going to start trading some right clicks with him. Meanwhile, we'll have a look back at that mid lane while we have a chance. 23 Savage, he'll be up against Mac once again. So they do switch it over multiple times now. 23 Savage, currently 23 last hits, 3 denies, as his name would imply. The Queen of Pain, 16 and 4, but to be fair on Mac, he has been roaming so much, you can't really blame him for having a lower last hit score. Back bot lane, John.
This is
Boomy again, dropping quite low, though Febby will do the same. They're going to make the chase now. Not sure where they go with this though. Boomy does have Burrow Strike available, and he's thinking about Febby though. No, he'll go on the AA. He'll claim that bounty rune off the side of Jinesbrus, but now he may give his life away. There is a nice charge from Febby. They couldn't get to the shrine in time, so he will pay with his life. And it looks like they're going to go for more. CML now going to be in trouble. Gunnar got the boundless, not the boundless, but the Jingu Mastery. There's the boundless strike coming out, and CML is going to end up going down. Now March as well going to be in trouble though. Mac has rotated over. He has the Scream, and that will end up being enough in the end. But Jinesbrus probably going to be pretty satisfied with that, finding 2 kills for the price of 1.
definitely are. And again, we're seeing that early aggression finally pop out from both teams, and neither side is relenting. They've rotated all their heroes a lot of times now, and that does mean that a few of their cores are having a pretty rough time in terms of last hits. But again, the aggression doesn't end here, Mike.
No, it never does. It never does. Not from Febby anyway. This man loves charging every single chance he gets. And that is exactly what he'll continue doing. Looks like March on the AA. Gonna start roaming back into the lane. CML still at that level 2 mark on the Chen. So he's just gonna try and soak some XP in the jungle and get himself up. Though bot lane Gunnar now in trouble. Though nice mischief dodge on a right click. It won't be enough though. Natsumi does get lucky with the crit. Does find the kill. I believe that is his only first death on Gunnar, but like Natsumi is still finding quite a bit on the Wraith King, which is going to be quite concerning for them when you hit that mid game.
He definitely has. Again, he's pretty much not been forced out of the lane for the most part. He's been finding a couple of kills, finding a couple of assists. You are connecting a lot of resources here down bot to keep this Wraith King in check, and so far he hasn't really been kept.
Bok getting charged top lane, and there won't be any lucky bashes. He almost goes down though. Not quite the case. He does TP out in the nick of time. Still, you look at Forev on that Timbersaw now as well. He's got 48 last hits, 11 denies, John. He's been having a fantastic time up at the top lane in comparison to the 31 and 3 of the Omni. And again, you probably could put that down to the lane switches, but I mean, it's still going to cost them a bit with Forev farming this much.
Definitely does. I think they really are banking on Mac for that.
Gunnar goes pretty low down bot lane though. Now Forever's rotated over. They don't have dust for Boomy. So Boomy's just going to sit in this sandstorm and wait out the storm. Forev now. Maybe a bit unhappy about making this rotation though. Febby will find out Boomy, but doesn't even have the charge available. So Forever will take over the farm. It looks like they might actually go for another lane switch. Gunnar went back to the fountain. He may just TP up top lane at this rate and just leave Forever down at the bot, and that's exactly what he does. I suppose up against Natsumi on the Wraith King once again, he's not going to have too difficult of a time getting that farm up.
That is certainly what Jinesbrus seems to think. And again, we've seen so many rotations. I don't think any of these cores have stayed in the exact same lane at all. Like, no one, with Forever's movement, no one has stayed in the same lane.
Well, I said they should have a decent time, John. Natsumi is still farming very well on the Wraith King, and now Mac can end up showing himself. Meanwhile, Forever finds Boomy down at the bot lane on the Sand King by himself. So a nice little solo pick off for him. Gunnar and Febby not really feeling very comfortable up at this top lane any longer, it seems. It's not really even going near the creep wave right now. They will wait out Box TP, and he'll go down to the bot lane where Forever is. I suppose now they'll feel a bit more confident to get in and get those last hits going.
Yeah, this does open up the lane just a bit, although again, Boomy does rotate up top, and man, they really aren't stopping with the lane switches. Honestly, they've wasted so many resources jumping around. I'm not sure if any of the early farm is going to be mattering for all these heroes that have shifted. The only hero that hasn't really shifted around too much is that Naga Siren. So Savage has just been farming up, really. He's walked down mid once, swapping out, but beyond that, I don't think he's actually moved. So the Naga Siren is definitely free farming.
She certainly is. 23 Savage, this is exactly what he does. Just disappears off the map, allows his team to create that space and carries them when they get to the late game. And we'll see if Adroit does do anything about it, because we've seen these 6-slotted Nagas and they are really, really painful to deal with later on. Looks like Adroit though doing the right thing. They are taking map control. They'll take the top tier 1 tower for themselves. Of course the bot tier 1 is currently being defended by Bok. March is the only one there on the AA trying to get some farm up. So first T1 does go down for the side of Jinesbrus. Looks like they won't, of course they won't force towards the tier 2 yet. They do time it perfectly though. 10-minute banner is coming up. Bot lane actually, Bok could find himself in trouble. Nice chain going in for Forever, though he does run the other way now, and Bok being slowed down. He will find the Arcane Rune, which will at least allow him to heal himself up a lot faster. Boomy will come in as well. Now the Burrow Strike does go out onto Forever. They're still going after Bok, but now Max here, the Sonic Wave, it will connect onto 2. March trying to make a run for it, but it looks like he is just going to end up dying. It's one of the big problems about chasing an Omni Knight, John. They just tend to live every single time.
And that's the issue with Jinesbrus draft. They don't really have the burst damage to deal with that sustain from Adroit. We've talked about that from the drafting phase, but we are seeing that in effect now.
Looks like Gunner's going to be chased down up at the top lane. Boomy trying to have a look and see where this Monkey King is, though. Gunner will just jump through the tree line, and Febby just going to charge his way straight into Boomy. Ice Blast coming in as well, but there's the Burrow Strike coming out, and they just avoid everything. Natsumi does get hit by the Ice Blast, but he won't care because Gunner is falling low, but now Savage will move his way in on the Naga Siren. He does have the song available, so it looks like he just came in just in case they needed to get away. Boomy is still being chased down by Febby, but it looks like that should be the end of that. They are still hanging around each other, but neither side really wanting to initiate any further. And it looks like Adroit will back off back towards their side of the map.
Yeah, and again, it's this non-stop aggression for both teams. It's just exciting to see. For the most part, we don't see all these rotations coming out, but every single time a movement is made, you see 2-3 supports coming in, you see another core come down, trying to find those kills. It has slowed down their farm, and that does favor Jinesbrus, because again, while all of that happens, you do have that Naga Siren free farming, and she does have that Yasha up, the 3 rate bands as well, working towards that Manta style, so Savage is actually set to have a pretty good time despite all the activity on the map.
Yeah, certainly so. Have that Manta style up very, very soon indeed. Well, second in net worth is also Forever on that Timber, so you've got the 2 top net worths there from the side of Jinesbrus. Adroit seemingly okay with this. Looks like Natsumi will go ahead and pick up a Midas on the Wraith King, so fairly standard from him, and it looks like they are going to be rather comfortable to just take it easy and go into that mid game with a bit more farm. Still though, it can be very scary again. You're going into a Naga Siren. She is going for a Diffusal Blade as well after that Manta, and that's going to make the Wraith King's life a living hell up until at least he hits that level 20 mark. But before then, if 23 Savage does join the fights, you're not going to have that reincarnation available.
Yeah, you definitely aren't, and again, you can't really scale, you don't really want to delay too long. The late game potential from Jinesbrus is pretty darn good. You have that Monkey King and Naga on your side, whereas for Adroit, you're really going to be depending on that Wraith King, Queen of Pain, both of which kind of taper off once you reach that ultra late, maybe about 45 to 50 minutes, which is a long time considering the activity in this game.
Forev, he's in trouble. Bot lane though, he is pretty darn tanky. Now the Ice Blast will come in. It will land on 2 as well, and Forev now, he wants to go back, try and find himself a kill. It looks like Boomy will show himself in a nice Chains Whirling Death. Boomy, he's in trouble. Nether Strike will come in, and Febby will clean that one up. And CML now kind of showing himself on the Chen, though Forev will miss the Chakram. Looks like he will just go clean up the creeps, and now Hand of God comes out, but the creeps are already dead, and now the charge goes in as well. CML still being chased down by Forev. Meanwhile, March comes into the backlines and ends up going down to Mac. They'll go back on that Queen of Pain though. She was frozen up by the cold feed. But Forever just doesn't seem to have the lockdown on the Timbersaw to actually be able to take anyone out. And so while he can tank all this damage, it looks like he will just give up. He's pretty much out of mana anyway. I suppose you're probably still going to be okay. You've got a 1-for-1 trade on either side.
Yeah, it's not the worst trade in the world for Jinesbrus. The one thing that's lacking from their strat right now is they're playing as Tree, mainly because Gunnar is not online. Right, he's had a rough lane, he doesn't have that early farm to play around with. He does have a highly mobile, flashy hero, but without the items on him, he just can't contribute, and that does mean that Jinesbrus is slowed down. Right, you have good farm in your Naga, good farm in your Timbersaw, but you can't buy that space too well, you can't counteract the aggression too well early on, because again, that Monkey King has just gotten really shafted. He's at 3.9k compared to Raid King at 5.8. Not a good time for Gunnar.
So bot lane though, John. Bok going to be charged up. Forever is there once again. Ice Blast going to come in as well, and that's going to make it so Bok is not as tanky as you would hope. Forever though doesn't have much mana, and a nice Burrow Strike from Boomy, perfectly timed. Though now they do drop a sentry, and Boomy will have to give his life away for the sake of saving his own Omni Knight. And I suppose that is a positive in a sense for Adroit, but still, Jinesbrus going to be happy with that. Now, they try to jump on Gunnar with Mac. There will be a charge from Febby, and this man just never likes to stop the charge. He will this time around, though. And so we're going to sit at a 5-6, 15 minutes in. 1k net worth lead for the side of Adroit. But at 15 minutes in, that 1k lead, not really going to matter too much. It's a very even game so far.
It definitely is. Like, that 1k lead does enable them to play around with their course a bit more. You are seeing Natsumi really take his time to just go back and farm. He's working towards that Radiance. We see this a lot from Raid Kings, especially going into that mid-game. Once they get that early Midas, they rush the Radiance, and they don't really play around the map until it's up. So Adroit is trying to buy space for Natsumi, and they have bought it pretty successfully. He hasn't been pressured too much, but you are doing the same. Again, I hate going back to it, but Savage has just had free time. He's got his Diffusal up, so he could potentially join if he wished, but it doesn't look like he's ready yet, and it's the stall game. So far, it is even, but again, you're going late game against Naga Siren. You are giving Gunnar some space to farm back up, although he's still struggling, but once those tools are available for Jinesbrus, your response from Adroit has to be on point. Again, your Chen kind of tapers off just a bit, the Queen of Pain kind of tapers off a bit until she hits her 25 talent, then she goes insane. So there's some weird timings you have to play around here if you're Adroit.
Yeah, definitely so. Of course, Savage, once again, with that Diffusal Blade, just still going to take his time. He's queued up an Eye of Skadi now as well. I imagine he will just go ahead and finish up the Manta first, though. At least that does allow you to fight a bit earlier on if you need to. But it looks like Savage will probably just join in if he needs to throw the song out for his team, just to be able to retreat if necessary. Of course, once again, Jinesbrus will just do the rest. Gotta say, I haven't really felt the biggest impact yet anyway from the Chen. Like, he has been trying to make plays, he's been pushing out lanes, but generally when you see this Wraith King Chen combination, you'd expect them to try and push down towers a lot earlier. So far, they've only found 2 tier 1 towers, which I would say is slightly slow for that combo.
Yeah,
do
definitely
you think
is.
they...
And again, that's down... It's down to the fact that Natsumi's farming. He wants that Radiance up. They're not forcing out their early power spike. And I think maybe they understand that the Diffusal timing from Savage is pretty darn good as well. So if they force it out, the Raid King's not going to have that longevity early in the game.
Forever building up so much sustain of his own on that Timbersaw as well, by the way. He's got the pipe up, going for the Guardian Greaves next. And although it hasn't been some crazy good game for Forever, in fact, hold that thought, Ice Blast going to come in and they are going to go onto Mac. He does use himself up, but he is dead. The Chakram does come out from Forever in time. Now they'll chase after Bok. They don't have the Ice Blast this time for the Omni Knight, but can they find him? They'll go for the charge on CML instead, get rid of that Chen, and then go for the Omni after. Now Gunner's here as well, although he'll just back off. And it looks like Bok should be able to just walk out of there safely anyway, but they do find 2 very nice pickups in that mid lane. They might find another. Febby dropped the sentry and does get a charge though. Boomy, a nice Burrow Strike coming out. And it looks like they'll give up on the Sand King kill attempt, but they'll go after the T1 mid tower instead.
And that aggression is starting to kick in for Jinesbrus. You do have the level 10 on Gunnar, so he has a lot more spells, at least higher level spells to play around with, and that does allow him to jump in a bit more comfy despite not having any items yet. And, you know, they should be able to secure this mid-tier 1, but the defense is coming out.
Yeah, Burrow Strike goes in. Farev still looking pretty healthy, and look at that damage
wow.
coming out, and now the Ice Blast as well. Mac, he has to be careful. Farev, he'll be okay. He's pretty darn low, but he can get out of there safely, it looks like. And now the Guardian Angel coming out just to make sure they can protect from the Naga illusions. I mean, the real hero isn't even there right now. At the very least, they do deny off that T1 mid tower, so they do deny a lot of gold away from Jinesbrus. Though, gold isn't really a thing they're short on right now. And you just saw, like, even with those illusions from 23 Savage, it was just so much damage being dealt with the Riptide. And that's got to concern the side of Adroit. Like, I realize you didn't have the Wraith King there to help out with the Radiance, but even with him there, I don't know if it's going to make a difference up against this Naga.
It's going to be rough. Again, you are pushing it into the late game. The Naga Siren's going up bigger and bigger. He has that level 15 talent now, so more strength, more durability.
He's in trouble, John. They smoked up, they found him. Now the Ice Blast comes in. Boundless Strike to hold him down. Natsumi will lose his first life. He does have help in the form of Bok there, though. Bok right behind him. Bok should be able to just Heavenly Grace and keep him alive. Purification as well, though. Now Fabi going to go after that Omni. Natsumi's still going to be chased down. They do commit the song to hold him down. Chakram now, Farev jumps in, and that's a much easier kill while the Timbersaw's there. In fact, 23 Savage is the one to pick up the kill on the Naga Siren. But yeah, I mean, he was getting close to that Radiance. He needed about 600-700 gold for the recipe. Unfortunately, now it will be delayed even further. That's going to make it a 5-9. The net worth lead does swing the way of the Dire.
And that is worrisome for Adroit, although they do find Savage.
They do. He doesn't have Song available. This could be a massive pick, but there's those illusions coming out. Now more to come. Boomy copping a lot of damage. He's got to be very careful. Savage, though, a much, much more valuable kill. They will end up finding him in the end. And a great pick there from Adroit. They realized the Song was committed. They realized he had no way out of there. And so Savage getting a little bit greedy, remaining in that lane to farm, it will cost him.
It definitely does. It's still a worrisome situation for Adroit. You'd want to have a bigger lead at this point. You'd want to really take control of the maps now, especially with the heroes you have. You have that Shen, you have the Wraith King, you have the Queen of Pain, who's had a decent enough time, at least still better than Gunner. So you have all the tools to really force that 4v5. It just hasn't happened. Adroit is doing that same 4p1 as well. They're protecting Natsumi. They want the Wraith King to find that farm. So their timings are going to be late. They're going to want to play towards that late game end. As we've seen before, is it going to be enough against the Naga Siren? It feels like it isn't, really.
Bok, top lane, going to get charged, but Gunner won't make the jump in. They did go for a scan behind to see if he had any support, and he didn't. That Omni is still a very hard kill to go for, so they'll just leave him be. Looking over at Mac on that Queen of Pain, he's trying to pick up the Silence, the Orchid. Is what he's trying to pick up, and looks like he is getting pretty darn close. He just needs the recipe now, and he's got enough gold for it. With that Orchid, it should help quite a bit up against at least Farev, but well, the problem with him now is Farev has a Guardian Greaves available, so he can just dispel that silence off himself. I guess you could still go for the supports in this situation, but I don't know, how much value is that Orchid going to have at this rate? Like, I realize Mac didn't see the Guardian Greaves coming up, but do you see it being effective for any other hero on the side of Jinesbrus?
It's only really effective for Gunner at this point. He's the only one with no defensive item. You have the Manta style up on Savage now as well. So it's only really going to work on Gunner, unless you really want to burst the support down fast enough. I don't think you need the Orchid to burst down the AA. Perhaps the Spirit Breaker, but he's not a prime target to burst down, and the smoke's broken.
Yeah, the smoke's broken. They'll find March on the AA, so a nice position 5 kill. Can they find another, though? They'll go after Fabi on that Spirit Breaker. Get rid of that annoying Spirit Breaker, though. No, the song does come in, and look at that lineup he's got. They won't actually go after anything, though. They don't really have the greatest AoE abilities anyway. The AA is dead, so no Ice Blast to come. And so you find a position 5 kill for that smoke, and I guess definitely Adroit wanted a bit more than that. Still, I guess they'll have to take what they can get. Again, though, it really isn't much gold at all.
It definitely isn't, and at this point, I don't reckon March actually cares too much about dying as long as the rest of his team does get out, which they do. So again, the game pace has been slowed down. You do have a Radiance up on Natsumi, so if ever he does feel like fighting, he's going to have that long burn presence available with his 2 lives. He doesn't have level 20 yet, and that might be an issue. Again, you have the Fusel Blades up on the cores from Jinesbrus, so it's not guaranteed he's going to have that second life every single time, and that's really the trouble here. If you don't have your second life and you went for the Radiance build, you're not getting value from that item.
Luckily for Natsumi, he's only about 3.5 levels away from that level 20 mark now, so he will be able to get that no mana cost reincarnation very soon. Still going to be very annoying for the rest of the heroes though, like the Queen of Pain, just going to have her mana drained straight away once she gets ensnared. Even Bok as well. I mean, he has the Soul Ring and Arcane Boots at the very least. They can try to get himself back up in the middle of the team fight, but it is still going to be something to worry about here for Adroit. So we remain at a 7-9 now. We'll have a look at the win probability and see what Dota Plus is thinking. And they actually believe Adroit is still in the lead. 60% their way to win this game. 40% for the side of Jinesbrus. Not really sure how they're coming up with that figure. I guess the slight net worth lead may be enough.
I guess the lineup, because again, you know, they may seem weak, they still are powerful. This is still their power spike. The Naga's not quite fully in line. Gunner is still way far behind. The Timbersaw does have a bit of a timer as well. Like, there is a point where the Timbersaw just stops being as effective. And we are reaching that point around the 30-35 minute mark. If everyone else on Adroit's side does overtake Forev, he's not going to be as effective. So they're approaching their utility with those heroes. And again, Adroit is starting to come online. Again, Natsumi is ready to fight. You've got the Orchid up on Mac. He's had it for a while. We haven't even seen him use it yet. So these tools are up and running, and they just need to have everything come together for Adroit.
Forev just going to slowly push in that tier 1 top tower. Looks like he will go in to defend the mid tier 2. It's very hard to push into the Timbersaw, especially when he's this farmed up. You can really just clear those waves very, very easily. So Adroit, they won't even bother with this. They'll back off once again. They do save their own tier 1 top tower. In fact, I believe Natsumi will just deny it, and he does. So another bit of gold being taken away from the side of Jinesbrus, but at the very least, the Diag does gain a bit more map control with that tower going down. They do have a nice shot at Febby if they want it. And Forev does get jumped. Boomy will find the burrow, and now they move in, but he does chain away. Looks like both teams will just kind of dance around each other for a bit before they go back to farming. Of course, if you can't find any kills, just keep getting that gold up. I do get concerned though, like you look at the Naga, he's about 4k ahead now of Natsumi. Natsumi does go for the Maelstrom into the Mjolnir build as well, so he's just trying to get all the illusion clear, even just by himself. I suppose it is going to be pretty useful in that sense, but it really depends though. Like, you've got an Eye of Skadi now up on 23 Savage as well, so he is hitting pretty hard. I don't know how much time you're going to have to actually try and clear those illusions before you get taken out.
It's rough. You have to really have free reign there. He doesn't have any defensive items up on Natsumi as well, so he's going to be prone to getting controlled without anything like a BKB up, and it doesn't look like he's going to be going for that anytime soon, which is fair because, again, we have just been seeing a lot of farming from both sides, so there hasn't been a pertinent need to, but the moment the team fight breaks out, he's not going to have any protection. I think that's something Jinesbrus can definitely abuse. It certainly has shown up in a couple of fights before as well.
Ooh, Febby barely avoids a Burrow Strike coming out, and that was another smoke coming out from Adroit that didn't really work out. They just picked that Blink Dagger up on Boomy as well, though he didn't opt to commit it to find the stun. And so it looks like Adroit will be forced to just back off once again, and they just can't capitalize off this draft if they can't find at least a couple kills. Forev to clean up some more Chen creeps, but he won't be so lucky. Well, Mac gonna get charged up by Febby, though he does get the Yules off. 23 Savage was moving his way in case he did land the charge, and now Shadow Strike does come out, but that's pretty much gonna be the end of that. They have found Natsumi though. Gunner on the tree does spot him out. Looks like Natsumi though, great game sense from him. He does have quite a few observer wards around the area anyway. He will be aware that they're on their way, though they will actually go for the Roshan attempt now. And if you're Adroit, you kind of have to fight this.
You definitely do. Again, you have that great initiation coming out from Mac and Boomy. It's going to be very possible. You had vision of this as well.
Boomy gonna blink forward. He will actually find Gunner on the tree as well. He picks the right tree, but there's a song coming out. The lineup once again. Now the Wukong's command. This is gonna look really bad. Ice Path to fly in. It does connect on CML. He does use Hand of God though. Still, is it enough sustain? They've found March on the AA, and now they're trying to control up that Naga Siren. Meanwhile, Forev jumping in. Febby, he found two of them. CML and Mac both go down. Meanwhile, Gunner trying to take care of Boomy, who's trying to run away now. Does blink forward. Should be okay at this rate. They are still chasing, however, but...
Oh, Gunnar. This is the one thing with the Timber Saw and the Monkey King. You can cut off... You can cut off the Monkey King's tree, which just happened, so... Gotta watch out. Not a very safe move.
Still, a 2-for-1 trade in that last engagement. You did force out March's buyback, to be fair, though. And I suppose they still could go for an Aegis snipe here with Boomy on that Sand King, and he's thinking about it, though. Forev already preemptively waiting around that cliff area. Yep, the Roshan will go down. Boundless Strike was there just in case, and they will claim the first Aegis of the game, and that'll be given over the way of Gunner on that Monkey King. Back, Boomy stuck around for that banner rune. He doesn't find it, and he is going to end up going down anyway. They still managed to get a 2-for-2 trade on the bounties. In fact, no, never mind. Febby actually found both bounty runes, so they get nothing on the side of Adroit. 4 bounty runes for the side of Jinesbrus now. That's going to increase that net worth lead that they had to about 2k.
Yeah, you are starting to see some spikes coming back to Adroit. Like, you have the level 20 on Wraith King, so he has that no reincarnation mana cost. He's going to be effective in every single fight, at the very least, in terms of his contribution. You know, that Radiance Burn is going to be there for much longer than you'd want. As Jinesbrus, you don't really have heals coming out from your end. Compare that to Adroit, who have heals in spades, and can really sustain themselves. They've gotten a bit more back if they decide to fight with that Wraith King.
Febby gonna jump in straight on CML. Nice boundless strike from Gunner. He found 3 of them. Now the Ice Blast coming in. It will land on 2. CML is definitely dead, and now the burrow to save. Boomy will delay Febby charging once again. Forev still moving forward on the Timber. Again, Forev doesn't really have the greatest lockdown, but he's just going to kind of guard that T2 tower so his team can move in. Another burrow strike from Boomy, and now the charge. They're going to go after Bok. Chargement does come in. No real follow-up though. Savage, he just wants that T2 tower. In fact, Savage has a full Heart of Tarask up now.
Yeah, he's definitely way far ahead. He's 4k ahead of that Wraith King, 21.8k net worth. Compared to 17.4, he's definitely had a good time. He's not even contributed too much. He's just farmed up the entire game, which is, again, Jinesbrus' game plan. They stack up, they really buy the space for this Naga Siren, and Savage usually does deliver. We're at that point where the Naga's going to be very hard to deal with, and all you have is a Wraith King with Radiance and Mjolnir, really. Is that going to be enough? Doesn't feel like it. They are going to have to drop their tier 2s now.
They can't really defend. I mean, Forev, again, just guarding the team. Looks like Boomy is ready to burrow strike in if necessary, but doesn't opt to. Now Forev just keeps moving forward. You can see Febby on the Spirit Breaker just waiting for a charge target. He won't get one though, not quite yet anyway. And at this rate, I mean, Adroit, they've only got 1 T2 tower left. With their draft, they were the ones that were meant to be aggressive. And yeah, Natsumi gets caught out. The Omni's not there to purge off the ensnare. Now they charge forward. CML going to be the target. Wukong's command, Natsumi, he just melts. Febby, oh, the song. Look at the lineup there, John. It's fantastic. They don't have the Ice Blast available, but this is going to be just an absolute disaster coming out. Jinesbrus just going to surround him and just take him out. They do get the Guardian Angel off at the very least, but it's not going to be enough, I don't think. Bok is still very, very low and trying to back off. Where's the charge? Forev, he does find Boomy in the back, and now they found another in Natsumi. That was a dieback on the Wraith King, and that is going to be really bad news now. You've got 2 heroes left on the side of Adroit to try and defend. There should be at least 2 Raxes going the way of Jinesbrus, but they might just go for the tier 4s. Without that Wraith King buyback, you kind of can opt to, especially with how farmed 23 Savage is.
Oh, the tips. Oh,
Forev.
I mean, Natsumi was farming that camp outside while they were pushing in. Savage didn't even right-click with his own hero. He just sent his illusions out and he died. He just purged him with the diffusal, just inhibited him with the diffusal blade to keep him in place, and he just died. He wasted his first life on illusions.
I mean, at this rate, John, I don't see what you do if you're Adroit. You see Bok, he gets charged up. There's the follow-up stun with the Boundless Strike, though. He will Heavenly Grace, but he doesn't have Guardian Angel this time around. Boomy, a nice Burrow Strike coming out, though. Mac now in trouble. He has the BKB, but needs to blink out. Meanwhile, Savage going to get CML on the backlines, and now the Epicenter coming out, but it's doing absolutely nothing. He's a sitting duck now. They get the Ice Blast in the fountain. Forev finds Boomy, and this is GG well played. They call it. They have had enough, and Jinesbrus, their first game of the day, they do show up, and, you know, John, when we were watching during Open Qualifiers, I did say, even before they'd won, they were the scariest team going into the SCA Closed Qualifiers. It's only been one game so far, but they are looking pretty darn good.
They definitely are. We were questioning, you know, whether or not they would be able to pull it off, especially with Gunner's really bad start, but Jinesbrus still finds that momentum they want. They still get that aggression off. They delay it long enough for, again, Savage to just come online and do his job. And,
Absolutely.
you know, that was one of the best drafts to counteract that kind of gameplay. It didn't really put the dent too much in Jinesbrus, even if Gunner was struggling. So it's going to be interesting to see them perform the rest of the closed qualifiers, but that's a pretty rough start for Adroit.
Certainly is, and with that, John, we are going to move into the standby screen, of course. We'll be back with our second series very, very soon. In fact, I should have a quick look and see who the second series it is. It is going to be Amplify versus RSG, so we'll be right back with Amplify versus RSG. Shouldn't be too long of a wait. I imagine it'll be 5 to 10 minutes maximum. It is MLPDotA and Johnxfire, though. We'll see you guys very, very soon for the next matchup.